Hi, it's Martin Wardle from the Accelerator team at Robson Laidler, and I'm here today with Brian Thomson from the Will Guys.
Hi,
Brian, how
everybody.
are you doing? Brian, we're going to talk today about the importance of having a will, things like powers of attorney, that kind of thing. I know people who write wills have been busy for the last couple of years.
Yeah, very busy. I started my business 2 days before Boris locked me down.
Right.
Thought have I made the right decision? And then due to the pandemic, everybody kind of wanted a will from there. And also the Will Guys, we kicked off free wills for NHS staff, and I think since then we've wrote probably about 6,000 free wills.
Wow.
Just to say thank you.
Yeah. Good.
And we've went totally nationally with it.
That's a bit more than clattering a pan on the front doorstep, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people in the NHS mentioned the clapping, and a lot of other will writing firms started offering free wills to the NHS. But yeah, we were recognised by the Evening Chronicle for our work.
But it wasn't just NHS, people generally.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, the pandemic focuses the mind on people's mortality, doesn't it?
Yeah. And the importance of having a will probably came to the forefront of people's minds, because a lot of the time people put off having a will, because I always say it's the last letter that you write to your family, and then the moment that you die, that is the document that's read and how you wanted things to go, although not everyone might agree with how you wanted it, is written down on paper and is then divided how people want it to.
You don't have to have a stately home and a butler and
No,
a family
no,
solicitor
no,
and
no.
thunder and lightning. The reading of the will is not like a grand thing. But why did people leave it till?
I think
because you said it's the last letter you write to your family. Most people probably it's also one of the last things they do of any importance in their life, isn't it?
So some people, I mean, do really good planning. Really good planning is having everything in place. But and a lot of will writers watching this will agree that in January, everybody spent Christmas with their family, and I don't know why, but the New Year's resolution is to write a will because they've been talking about it for so long, if that makes sense. So we're inundated in January with people to write their will. Why do people put it off? Probably because they don't want to write that sort of last letter, if that makes sense.
It's a taboo topic, isn't it? It's like, oh, when I die, it's almost like. Is it like people don't want to jinx mentioning?
Some people don't like talking about death, to be fair. And you hit the nail on the head before. Everyone thinks, certainly me growing up, to have a will, I needed that stately home of Downton Abbey.
What's the point in having a will if you've got nothing to leave?
Yeah, 100%. And I think the mission of the Will Guys is to, one, make wills affordable to everybody, and two, to make it a process where you don't sort of feel like you're just talking to a robot. We're trying to make it personable, try and have a little bit of fun, make a light-hearted situation.
I always find death extremely funny.
But when you're talking to people about death, they don't. I think the way you explain to someone the importance of certain things of a will is important. But when people leave, I mean, I had a gentleman who left an individual club out of all of his golf clubs to his friends, but he thought that was a funny thing to do. So people see the light-hearted part of it. And then you've got the real importance of having a will. For me personally, having a son who's 3, just gone, is that if I don't have guardians in my will, then the local authorities will decide on who is new legal guardian.
Because there's a lot of issues that people don't realise. A will isn't about leaving the stately manor to someone, is it? And,
correct.
No. But let's just cover the basics then. So most people should have a will. And it's basically everyone as soon as you've got stuff or people in your life, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. People who... I always get I'm writing a will, but I've got nothing. And by the end of the appointment, they've got a lot.
They've realised what they've actually got and where it needs to go.
Got a bit of money in the bank, got a house, mortgage. They might even be renting. That's there's nothing against people who rent. But they've got children.
Yeah.
They've got a life insurance policy that, where's it going? Is it written in a trust? You know, there's
most people at work have got some kind of policy at work even.
Yeah.
You know, you get twice your salary if you pass away.
death and service,
You might have your
pensions.
pensions and
Yeah, and they don't go into your will, but we also give people that sort of trigger point to say, contact your pension company and say, I want it to be left to. Contact your work and say, if I die in service, I want it to be left to. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But touching on the guardianship, the thought of if me and Louise passed tomorrow, that Teddy would spend one day in care before they decide whose new legal guardian is, writing a will.
That was worth it alone. Yeah,
by itself.
So because it's not automatic that just, you know, one of your mothers or sisters would just go, don't worry, Teddy will be dropped with us, he'll be fine.
That's what he's got godparents for.
It's not an automated process at all, is it?
No. And you know, social services, their job is the welfare of the child. Yeah. So, but with a will, you can say that I want him to go and live with such and such.
Because you know which of your brothers or sisters are the ones you
And the worst case scenario is you might end up living with a family member who is deemed suitable by the local authority, but someone that I might not have got on with.
Yeah, or might not live round here.
Yeah. So you might have to and you know, not everyone has family around them, so it might be a situation where you have to up sticks and go somewhere else. Yeah.
So you've got kids. Anyone with kids should have something in their will.
Anyone with assets.
Anyone with assets, we've covered. What does the will take? What form does it take then, Brian? It is a written document, but people don't have to sit and write a will, do they?
No. So the process with us at the will guys is you inquire, or you know, someone comes to me for a will. We have I always say a 2-minute consultation to talk about what we're doing. But you know, my passion for wills, we're probably on the phone for 5 to 10 minutes. It takes a little bit longer. We send out a kind of pre-document where you fill in. So I'm not coming back to you and saying, Martin, what's your name? What's your address?
You get the basics.
I get the data out of the way. So when I come to write your will, I talk to you about the stuff that your data does matter, but you don't want to bog down and go through that. A will with us takes around about, I think, average 45 to, I think our last design was 58 minutes is the average time.
Right.
58 minutes to write a will. Less than an hour.
It's a double episode of EastEnders, isn't it?
There's 160 hours in a week, so 1 hour. It's not really much. And then once it's done, unless you obviously make.
So because you mentioned that, and we've gone straight into why you would have a will. What happens if you don't have a will then?
So if you die without a will,
which is called dying intestate, isn't
it? Yeah. You basically follow the rules of the government. And you know, the reason why I got involved in wills is a family member who I've never met before died with a will, but it wasn't signed. So having a will that's unsigned is just...
It's no will.
Well, there's no will. It's the old cliche of it's not worth the paper it's printed on, to be fair. So his estate was divided in the laws of intestate, and not the way that his will actually said that he wanted things to go through, but he never signed it.
So someone, because you've never met this person, had you?
Never.
And you kind of like inherited something where his actual close family and relatives were probably thinking, well, who's this guy who's just got a cut of the estate?
Well, I don't know if they physically know my name, but if they
but
do.
They know that a share of it went out the way.
Yeah, so, you know, he had 6 brothers that he didn't know about.
Wow.
So I was contacted June 2019 to be advised of this. Anyone knows my friends? I thought it was a wind up to start with. She said the guy, Anth, like, and when someone replies back and say who's Anth, it's like, oh, hang on. So, and it was a company called Fraser and Fraser from London.
So they're like air hunters or something with
air hunters, yeah, basically. And you kind of think, but you know,
when are they going to ask for money?
Yeah. Well, that
I was related to a Nigerian prince.
Yeah. So
I just need to send him £4,000 to unlock it.
And the crazy thing that happened from that is, you know, my dad passed away when I was quite young. I grew up, didn't know that he really had a big family like that. Neither did he, to be fair. And then took to Ancestry, and I've actually found one of his brothers.
Right.
Which is, I know when I'm trying to get deep on this conversation. But that's had that gentleman signed his will, then this would have, me meeting my dad's brother would never have happened.
But also there's probably someone who was close to this guy who's passed away who wasn't expecting that his assets were going to be shared 6 ways. He might have lived with someone, but not married to them.
Yeah,
so he's possibly got a partner who's
I think there was a note saying the will's in the box upstairs in the wardrobe, and when the persons then went to get probate, they've produced a document that wasn't signed.
It wasn't signed,
which is sad. If I'm being quite honest with you.
Yeah.
I always check with my clients: is your will signed? Because it's great doing it, but if you don't sign it, then
before I leave, can we just make sure you've actually signed?
Yeah. And the importance of signing your will. So having 2 witnesses witness you actually sign the document, because when you go, they will be asked that question. If they're not here, then there's no one they can ask. But that's why I got involved in wills.
Yeah, it's interesting. So what can be left in a will then, and what can't be left in a will?
Well, you can leave a lot in a will, to be fair. So the main point of a will is you assign an executor, which carries out the requests and wishes of your will upon your death. They inform all the correct people, local authorities, banks, your job, technically, although you'd hope your employer would know that you didn't turn to work on Monday. They arrange your funeral. They pay off any debts. They then give out legacies, which is the part of the question you've asked. So, where's my pets going?
So I'm getting a 7A in.
Where's my pets going? Any item, really. And when we talk about legacies, do you want to leave anyone? People say, well, I haven't got anything. But it might be worth nothing in value.
But the china, actually, that was my granny's china. I wanted to go to my daughter.
We discussed about St James's Park, the Lego thing there. You might want to leave that to someone, which you can.
If you want it, Brian, I can get you one.
I mean, if I'm in.
Sorry.
Money, specific bank accounts, property, a business. So if I'm self-employed, but if I owned a business, what do I want to happen to my business when I die?
So if you had shares in a company, for instance,
yeah. And that's where us at the Will Guys, we have a bespoke estate planning team who take on that work. So things like business clauses, business trusts, etc. What you want to happen to your assets afterwards, if that makes sense, because you might want the business to continue.
Of course, we could be in business, but you leave everything to your lass. Mm-hmm. I don't want to be in business with your lass.
Correct.
Nothing against it. Yeah. But so you've got to make sure stuff like that's thought of.
And then that's where things like business insurance come into play, like shareholder protection, etc. Because agreed, you might not want to be in business.
She might not want to be in business at all. She might fancy some money. So policy to buy the shares.
But some people might want to just wind their business down, sell it off, give the money to the beneficiaries. Some people might want people to continue running their business because they might have young children. If I own a business, I might want to run on until Teddy's 18, then he can decide at that age. Hopefully I see his 18th birthday, touch wood.
Okay then. There are a couple of strange exceptions on things like property ownership, isn't there? There's different types of joint property.
So you've got...
Is it worth just covering that off? Because
totally.
So most people who bought a house have probably been asked, do you want this as joint tenants or tenants in common?
And as a first-time buyer, when people come to me and they'll go, my solicitor asks us, do I want joint tenants or tenants in common? Which box do I tick? Well, that isn't my decision to make for you. But obviously, joint tenants, me and you buy a property together, we're joint tenants, I die, that was yours.
And I get that regardless of the will, don't I? A joint tenant automatically assumes the other part of the ownership.
And then
I don't think a lot of people know that.
No. And a lot of people just, I've ticked that box. Well,
because it's jointly held. Joint tenant. It seems like a logical.
In some, a lot of people do it, and I'm not saying that this is the right thing to do, but a lot of people do it when they're unmarried.
To make sure the house goes to the other owner.
And then you've got tenants in common, which technically means that I own 1% and you own 1%. And it doesn't have to be 50-50. So you've got the mutual and then you've got non-mutual. So I might have put, say we put £100,000 on a house, I might have put 60 and you might have put 40. So I might say, well, I want 60-40 or 70-30. 90-10 is probably a bad split.
And I want my 60 to go where I want.
And
you can only do that with tenants in common.
And where that happens with people is I've got Teddy, you've got your 2 boys. On your death, you may want them to receive.
Yeah.
And I want Teddy if we break up.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay then. So we've talked about wills.
Yeah.
Wills, it's something you plan while you're here.
It's good planning.
Ideally, you can't do it when it's too late.
No.
We've talked about what happens if you don't. We haven't really gone through enough of that because there's still, I think there's a popular myth that everything, if you're married, just your other half gets everything. Yeah. That's not the case, is it?
No.
And again, a lot of people don't know that.
Yeah, and another thing that we never really covered is there's also trusts within a will. So you've got a basic will, you've got a will with a trust, and then you've got lasting power of attorneys, which we'll go on to soon. But a will with a trust can help you with things like sideways disinheritance, marriage after death, or just simply for me is that if I die, and so does Louise, then I've got trustees there who will look after Teddy's money until he reaches 25.
Until he matures and
because I don't want to get his money at 18 and just go and blow, because if I was him at 18, then I probably would spend a large proportion of it on Guinness.
And not education.
Yeah, yes. And you know, the trust gives you the ability to say to the trustees, can this be used for educational or medical?
So the trust within the will allows you to ring fence, for want of a better word, that most people. And you mentioned there things like onward marriage. You may go, well, you don't mind your lass having stuff, but if she remarries, you would still like it to go to Teddy eventually.
Yeah, I don't
know. Not possibly via a second marriage and your lass's death into a family that you've never met and Teddy get nothing.
100%.
So it's not about excluding others, it's about ensuring the people you want get it, isn't it?
Yeah. And I mean, you just hit another topic there. You can exclude people from your will, but it has to be done correct, which is why...
Because there's cases about, siblings who contest their parents' will because, oh, well, she didn't leave me anything. Yeah, but you fell out 30 years ago, you've never met her, you've never been... Yeah. And it's not as simple as that, though,
well, they could technically say, prove that I fell out with.
Yeah.
If you're my dad and you've excluded me from the will, once you're gone, it's my word against yours, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you don't have a word, which is why our estate planning team is phenomenal, to be fair.
Just to make sure you've got the evidence.
To make sure it's written down correctly, and we always say to people, just because you want to exclude somebody because you've had an argument in the weekend, again, this is the last letter they will read about you. Are you sure you want to do this? Does that make sense?
It was falling out over who ate the last burger.
You might have wrote your will in 2010 and me and you fell out, and we've touched base again now.
You've reconciled. You've been friends for 20 years.
And you forgot to change your will. And it comes to me reading your will and you've excluded us. And I'm thinking that was 10 years ago. I understand that, but things have changed and it's one of those situations.
Okay then. And so we touched on, again, the myth that your spouse or your civil partner gets everything, but they don't. If you've got a sufficiently valuable estate,
they get it.
You kind of get up to a threshold, and then it gets half between you and the kids, and again, you might just not want that.
No.
Your surviving spouse or civil partner might need the stuff.
Exactly, and that is why I always say to some people, if a basic will is X price, a trust is more expensive because there's a lot more work to be done in it. I always say to my clients, if you can only afford a basic will, then it's better to die with a will than without one.
Yeah. Even if you're just doing what you thought was going to happen anyway, it just takes away the doubt and ambiguity.
Obviously, other wills give you way more security, but everyone says to us, what does everyone else take? But it's not about what everyone else takes, it's about what your circumstances are.
Yeah, you're not leaving everyone else's stuff to everyone else.
No,
you're leaving your stuff to the people you want.
Yeah.
So we've gone through wills a bit there then, and it's a big topic, and we're not trying to solve everything here, we're just trying to set out some of the reasons. Powers of attorney, you mentioned powers of attorney.
Yeah.
So will is what happens when you die.
Yeah.
Power of attorney is...
Well, what happens when you're alive but not compass mentis would be, or
incapacitated,
over capacity. And I think where the surge really happened with lasting power of attorneys is Kate Garraway, the ITV presenter. Her husband Derek got COVID, caught COVID, but I don't know. Went into a coma, and she doesn't have lasting power of attorneys in place. And it's, for something that takes probably an additional 30 minutes on a will, is worth probably its weight in gold.
So what does it actually do then, Bri? So what was the issue Kay had there then? What could she not do?
So it's split into two different, you've got property and financial, which covers all property stuff and all financial stuff, and we'll come on to that in a moment. But then you've got health and welfare, which is, in my lasting power of attorneys, if I lose capacity, my wife can make decisions for me about my health.
And lose capacity, it could be car crash in a coma, it could be Alzheimer's, it's just anything where you lose the ability to make your own decisions, isn't it?
A lot of people, like wills, people make them, less than half the country's got a will. Okay, 65 million people in the UK, with a perception, I think, of near retirement age is probably the average age someone makes one.
People don't bother till the grandkids too.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. With lasting power of attorneys, it's almost the same thing that I'm 21, I'm not going to lose my mind. But hindsight's a great thing, isn't it?
But you're a base jumper.
Yeah. But you run into walls.
Or you work offshore, or you play a lot of rugby. Well, yeah.
So, lasting power of attorneys is me as the donor giving my attorney, which would be my wife, to make decisions on do I go to a care home? What care home do I go to? Can she give or refuse life-sustaining treatment? I might be out of capacity and I might have cancer. There might be a cancer drug that's got a 100% success rate. But unless she's got that, she can't agree.
Give the approval for it.
Hospital appointments, doctor's appointments, taking tablets, etc. Something that I physically can't do because I'm just a shell, if that makes sense. Yeah. And
so that's on the health and well-being. But on the financial side, it's more mundane. Even it's if you've got a bank account with money in, but you can't access it.
No,
you're not allowed to touch that money, are you?
And there will be people who will access it.
Just say, "Well, I'm doing it."
Yeah, but it's technically fraud.
Yeah.
With the greatest respect.
And if you end up in a care home, they'll say, "Well, where's his money gone?"
Yeah.
Or you've had it. Well, that was theft then.
Yeah, cool. You spent it on what? Flat white.
And even if they've spent it on you,
they
didn't have the power to do that, did they?
Yeah, you've took money out of something. Things like joint accounts are the same.
Because these things get froze, don't they?
Yeah. And you've got, if I'm at a pensionable age, my pension could be going into there. And if my wife hasn't got anything, then what happens?
Yeah.
She can't get access to it. Hopefully I'm mortgage free because I'm not, with the greatest respect. The banks still want their money. Everyone thinks, oh God, I've stuck with this bank all my life because they're my best friend. To a bank, you're just a number, with the greatest respect. Yeah. If you try to sell your house, you can't sell our house if I haven't got capacity, because what's the proof that I want to sell the house?
Can't rent it out. Can't it. So I deal with a lot of landlords, and so many landlords don't have power of attorney. And it's staggering.
Yeah.
Because they've got jointly held property where, if you end up incapacitated, they might not be able to make the decisions they need.
And if we've got a joint business account and the money from them houses are going in every month, should you really be taking anything out of it?
Yeah. So I don't know if it's my half.
I mean, you're the tax man here, but business owners, surely they must have to sign something every year to send their accounts off.
Sign tax returns. Yeah.
If I haven't got capacity, how am I signing that?
So because you can then fight to get the power, can't you? But it's not a quick process.
Yeah, you've got to go to the courts and kind of, I suppose, get someone to believe that Brian wanted Martin to be his attorney.
Would have wanted you to do that.
Yeah,
and a husband and wife, you can go, well, we're married. There's a presumption, but
Kate Garraway is still fighting for it.
I was going to say it's not as simple as
that.
Yeah.
And then once you've done your lasting power of attorneys with us, we bundle it all up and send it off to the Office of Public Guardian. To get them to review it, to make sure that it's in check. And that, I think it's about 15 weeks from the day we send it off, the day it comes back. So they've got a huge backlog because.
So imagine if you're trying to fight that rather than just get something signed off.
Yes, and obviously with COVID, government departments shut down, so they will have just had a massive backlog, if that makes sense. So people always say, I don't need one now. I'll get one. I'll come back to you in 20 years' time, Brian. 20 years' time might be too late.
Yeah. Okay then. So we've talked about power of attorney, we've talked about wills. What about, so there are some people who will genuinely say, and they'll be right, I haven't got anything. I don't care if I go, my mother can have everything because I've got no family, no wife, no kids, nothing. What about events that happen in life though? Because certain events can invalidate a will, can't they?
Yeah, say and I do.
Yeah. So we get married, all of a sudden your will is...
Almost a marriage proposal there, buddy.
Well, I didn't offer. Technically, I didn't offer. But it's good to know.
Yeah, so, I mean, keeping your will up to date. So, it's the last letter you write, but it's with the letter, it kind of evolves as time goes by. So
who are you writing it to?
Yeah.
You've had more kids, you've got grandkids, you might want to...
So I've got married. I might have left everything to mum in my last will, but as soon as I say I do, that's it, job done. That will's invalidated. I need to write a new one. I've had a child, adopted, moved house. Keeping your information up to date is correct. Life events, got divorced. I mean, I think one thing a divorce lawyer will tell people when the ties are cut is, if you've got a will, it's time to rewrite it.
Yeah.
Because 9 times out of 10, if you get divorced, you don't want your ex-partner to receive everything still.
You only got divorced for a reason, didn't you?
Yeah, 100%. So,
and actually now we've got no fault divorce, I think, as of 5th of April.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, you haven't got to actually prove anything now. So it's not the massive, big, drawn-out battle that it might have been, perhaps. It's not on your mind how much you might actually hate each other.
Oh, really? Wow.
And you'd be spinning in your grave if you thought you'd left everything to someone you'd hated.
Yeah, and obviously you might fall out with people. The profile you just give there was someone who doesn't have any children, lives by themselves, no partner. They might leave everything to a charity.
Yeah.
Which is what people do. People leave legacies in their will to charities. Yeah. But later on in life, you might meet someone and want to leave them everything. So keeping your will up to date is important. Knowing where it is probably more important, to be fair. Because if you can't find the original will, and someone said to me a couple of weeks ago, well, I'll just take 30 copies and send them to all my family. Great. But you can only use the original. Oh, really? Like someone was almost trying to find a loophole in the storage of your will. So us at the will guys, you can store your will with us.
Yeah. Which
means your executors know where the will is.
Always find the original.
In the event of you passing away.
So marriage basically breaks the will. We've talked about people onward marrying, how you can protect it, and ring fence, for want of a better word, with trusts. We haven't really talked about inheritance tax, but inheritance tax planning is a definite option within wills. There are ways to do things. It's worth bearing in mind.
And that is why we have an estate planning team. Yeah. So anybody who comes to us with an inheritance tax potential liability now or in the future would go to our estate planning team, and they would 10-15 minute consultation, and they would give them the correct planning of what they needed via a will, or they might even take out a life insurance policy, a whole of life, that would pay the inheritance tax bill for the surviving person, which is quite a nice gesture to do, to be fair.
Paper somewhere, but then these are the people in your life.
You
want to protect them.
100%. And what you've got today versus what you've got when I die, you'd never really know, would you?
Yeah, because actually it's funny. People say, "Oh, I've got nothing. I've got a house, but I've got a mortgage." Yeah, but if you've got life cover, you won't have a mortgage. Then you've got a house.
Yeah.
And people don't.
It is funny when people say I've got nothing, and then by the end of that 45-minute conversation, it's like, wow, I've got a lot, haven't I?
Yeah. What's just to end on a bit of fun then? What's the most frivolous or the most obscure bequest that someone's put in? You've mentioned golf clubs there, is there? Have you ever seen a gift made in spite? Give them that and stick that down their throat.
Well, people always, because you can also in a will say how you want to go. So buried, cremated, buried.
Right,
People always joke about that, but people always say, because you can be a donor.
Right.
People always say, I don't want to leave my eyes. That's one that always kind of sticks out with us. I don't want to leave my eyes to medical science, or I don't want to leave my eyes to...
My grandma used to say that for some reason.
Yeah, I don't know why. I came into the world with these, and I want to leave with these eyes. Crazy.
Ears are fine though, because these are new. I don't mind who gets these, but
I hope he doesn't mind us saying this, but my friend actually said at his funeral, one of our mutual friends had to wear a pink dress.
Oh, right.
And I'm just glad it's not me. But yeah, the golf club guy was each individual. And I started playing golf after that and thought, well, he didn't leave me anything. But,
well.
but yeah.
You need to get him to update his will then, Brian. Well, listen, thanks, Brian. That's been good. I hope everyone's learned a little bit about wills, power of attorney, the importance of them, the events that cause you to need a will, to refresh your will, to update your will, and hopefully taking away a little bit of the stigma that it's a taboo subject that only dusty people do when they're nearing retirement. It's not. It can be anyone, anytime. Reach out if you want to get in touch with anyone or you want to speak to Brian. We'll happily put you in touch. Meanwhile, if you've got any comments or queries, feel free to put them in the comments. Make sure you like and subscribe. And if there's anyone who you think should have a will, why not tag them? A little subtle reminder there. Thanks very much. See you on the next episode.